What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. Today we're going to cover the pros and the cons of calisthenics, bodyweight exercises, bodyweight training. Some people will argue that there's no point in doing bodyweight exercises, especially if you're trying to build muscle mass. Others will say it's the best thing you can possibly do. Where do I sit on this? I think there's some good and there's some maybe not bad but not as good things about calisthenics, so I wanted to cover them all in a video. And as my mom always said, Jeff, if you're ever going to say something not so great about something, make sure you start with the good. So we're going to start with the pros here, and right off the bat I will tell you, there's no doubt that the most inexpensive option when it comes to training is going to be bodyweight training, right? You don't need anything to get going. The barrier of entry is very, very low. Now you can see here, just in a typical home gym, you might need a bench, or you might need some dumbbells. Here I have the ATHLEAN blocks. Now that would be a good enough start, but it's certainly not inexpensive. It's going to be an expense, and let alone if you want to continue to build out that home gym and start getting machines like this, the expenses can go very, very high. The same thing can be said if you have to have a gym membership. Even though gym memberships have come down in price, it certainly can become an expense for people over time. Now, if you're going to train with your own body weight, you might have to still start buying something eventually, maybe just a common pull-up bar like this, but it's certainly not anything compared to what you'd have if you just needed to be able to use your own body weight in the space around you. The next in our top four actually builds off of that point is the fact that you can do bodyweight exercises anywhere. It really kind of removes the excuses because you don't need anything elaborate in your surroundings. As a matter of fact, on my yearly trip to Canada in the summers, I wound up finding myself with no access to anything but my surroundings, but nature. And I get the job done. You guys have actually seen me incorporate stones and rocks into my training if need be, but I've done a complete workout from even the back porch just because I know how to use my own body weight in space. It does provide, a better entry point, especially for those people that are a little bit inconsistent with their training because they tend to find the excuses. There's no excuses because you can drop down and give me 20 anywhere. Now the next one is actually central to our belief system here at ATHLEAN-X, and that is the athleticism component. There is nothing more athletic than a good bodyweight exercise. And that is because most of the time, number one, they're compound movements. And they allow us to move multiple joints at once and coordinate that movement together and really transfer that power throughout the kinetic chain. Whereas we have a lot of isolation movements that we do in the gym. I mean, let's face it, if we're doing a straight barbell curl or a dumbbell concentration curl, there's not a lot of athleticism involved in that. There will be some benefits to that we'll cover over on this side, but for the fact of the matter is, right now, a compound exercise is going to allow us to move our body more athletically in space. So there is a benefit that we have at ATHLEAN-X. We're always trying to make things more athletic. We can take that simple curl and do something more athletic like a fielder's curl, which puts our body in motion. Or not just a simple single plane lunge, we can do what we have here, which is our three-way lunge, and hit all three planes at once. So I'm not saying that you can't be athletic in the gym even with weights, but our bodyweight movements will allow us to do a lot of crazy things a lot more athletically that will have a good carryover if we are in the field of competition or even just the field of life. And finally, our fourth pro on the calisthenics side is that they are actually really, really good for conditioning and fat loss, and it's because of the way that we can program them and their flexibility in being programmed for this purpose. Conditioning workouts will definitely benefit from the more bang for your buck exercises. Again, the compound movements that will allow you to burn more calories in a shorter period of time. That's where they come in really, really handy. And because they're flexible enough to be able to be programmed into a lot of different styles of training, say HIIT training or just overall circuit training, we know that we can get a better result from doing our bodyweight training than we can in, let's say, fixed plane single joint exercises that won't give us that caloric burn, and then again maybe won't even give us the space in the gym to move around from implement to implement, barbell to dumbbell to whatever. We can do this in a short period of space, kind of wrapping all these points up in one, but really fitting in perfectly for this purpose. Okay, now we have to shift our focus to the other side of the board here. And the first thing we want to point out is that these calisthenics or bodyweight exercises may not be the best fit for you if you're already training with an injury. You see, because one of the assets of them being the fact that they're compound in nature can also be one of their detriments, in that they don't allow you to be very specific or joint specific if you're trying to train around an injury. Sometimes being able to isolate a single joint and not involve multiple muscles to pull on that joint in different directions is exactly what you need, and you can do that with a very specific use of a band or with the specific use of a lighter dumbbell. You can't necessarily do that as well with these bodyweight exercises, which can make it a little bit challenging if you're already a little bit banged up. Now, next up on our list of cons actually deals with one of those benefits again, and while these actually are more athletic, it does mean that it requires something else from you, and that is a little bit more coordination. Now, if you're the type of person that tries to throw a rock at the ground and you miss, you may not be the most coordinated person in the world, and that might make these exercises a little bit difficult for you to start out with. I'm not saying you can't improve here, but out of the gate, it might present a challenge for you. Yes, it's a lot easier to lift something straight up and put it down. Lift it straight up and put it down. But, we talked about already, the benefits here are going to outweigh the cons. It just might take you a little bit longer to get there. Number 3, and probably the biggest issue when it comes to bodyweight exercises, are that they're going to be harder to progress, and it's certainly not going to be as intuitive to you of how to progress them, so you kind of have to have a pretty good understanding about the way your body is moving. So let me give you an example. If you're in the gym and you want to know how to progress your strength levels, you can always add a 5 to the end of the bar. You might even be able to add a 2.5 if you're trying to go for really small incremental changes. But you know how to do it. You can add weight continuously until you can't add weight anymore. Now, with bodyweight exercises, you can certainly make them harder or more difficult, but there's 2 major problems. Number 1, it's not as intuitive as how to change the exercise to make it more difficult. Some people don't know how to reposition their bodies to make that exercise more difficult, or in some cases easier. On top of that, though, the jumps that you have to make, even in the smallest change, might equate to a 30 or 50 pound increase in the load that you're having to accommodate. And that may not be doable for a lot of people. So you might be stuck at a plateau for a very long period of time, trying to just get another rep or another rep, not necessarily being able to add onto that weight or the perceived weight that your body's lifting, as it would be if you were in a gym just adding weight to the end of a bar. And last but not least is probably the biggest con of them all, and that's the fact that we all know that bodyweight exercises won't allow you to build muscle or get strong. It's one of the biggest cons out there. As a matter of fact, whoever's telling you this is conning your ass into believing that, because guess what, guys? This ain't true. You can absolutely build new muscle and get stronger with bodyweight exercises if you know how to apply them and use them the right way. They don't always have to be used in the manner of high reps for conditioning benefits. But we all kind of tend to think that that's true. But all you have to do is think of certain exercises like one-arm push-ups, one-arm inverted rows, front levers, single leg pistol squats, or plyometric pistol squats. These are very difficult exercises that require immense levels of strength to perform them. And I will tell you this, the only thing that your muscles know is tension. The currency of your muscles is always tension. And whether that tension is derived from a barbell or a dumbbell or your own body weight is irrelevant. It's the fact that you have to apply that level of tension in a high enough manner to create overload. If that's in place, you're going to build muscle. And I show you how to do that in ATHLEAN-X because I'm a big believer that this is just such a lie. It's so not true that we know you can build muscle by doing that. You can drive tension through the roof if you know how to program it. ATHLEAN-X puts all that together in a 6-week program, and it shows you how to take yourself in one of our phases, not just to failure, but through failure by stepping down the exercise just enough that the point that you thought you couldn't get any more reps out, we can alter your body positioning to actually allow you to get just a few more out and again drive that tension through the roof to create that overload. If you're looking for that program, guys, it's over at ATHLEAN-X.com. In the meantime, if you found this video helpful, if you like the pros and cons, let me know. I'll cover more of these in future videos, but most importantly, I'll cover the videos that you want me to cover here on this channel. You just got to let me know what you want to see. All right, I'll be back here again in just a few days.